Welcome back to Who Moved My Career, the podcast where we help you navigate your career pivots, some reinvention, and moments that challenge and define us. I'm Nicole McNamara, here with my co-hosts.
Hello, everyone. Arun Changabital here, and Nicole, so nice to see you again.
We're back. It's happening.
It's happening, and we have an amazing guest here.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. So today's episode, we're talking about two kind of big buckets. The first one is those career-defining moments that we put into action. You know, in episode 1, Arun, we talked a lot about things that happen to us, things like layoffs, or, you know, some other unfortunate experience that may have happened in your career, but something that happened to you. Today, it's about those career moments that we choose, where we make an intentional decision to do something different or to make a different path for ourselves. And the second part of that is, even when it's a choice, it doesn't always mean it's easy. You know, throughout that process, it's important to also recognize that some of the same things we feel when it happens to us also pop up when it happens when we've made that decision. And it's really important to do what we call the reframe. And how do you take the things that feel not great now and turn them into something positive so that you can learn from them, so that you can grow, and so that you can hopefully turn a positive into a negative. So I'm really excited to be joined today by one of my favorite humans, Sam Tortora. Sam is also a member of the Phoenix Club, which is probably one of the most, biggest career-defining moments of her life. But Sam has this amazing story. She started at BlackRock. She has this amazing experience there. And we want to hear all about that. And then we also want to hear, Sam, about that moment where you said, ooh, like maybe I need to take a different path here. Maybe there's something else I want to think through. And what brings you here today and where you are in this moment. So I'm going to let the conversation start with the two of you. Arun, I know you have an opening question, so I'll kick it over to you. Sam, first of all, so excited to have you on this. I feel like you were a part of this early on. And so I'm pumped to have you here. Let's get into it.
Thanks, Nicole. And welcome, Sam. We're delighted to have you, and we're also grateful for your time. So thank you. Thank you for prioritizing this podcast. Thank you for prioritizing our audience. We are very grateful. So let's start off with your career journey and big pivots that you've made. You've had an incredible career with BlackRock in their investor relations organization and sustainability organization. You also advised CEOs, startups. So you have a very, very rich career. Could you, and it's been through various ebbs and flows and twists and, all sorts of things. So could you talk a little bit about it? How did you navigate them? And then also would love an introduction before we even started. So floor's all yours, Sam.
Absolutely. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to Nicole for starting the Phoenix Club and introducing me to you, Arun, as well as to the other folks who are in the group, who I really feel fortunate to have met. So really excited for this conversation and the space that you're creating for your guests, as well as for your audience to listen to stories of others who have been through it, are going through it, might go through it. So thank you again. A little bit about my background. I'm from New York. I studied applied mathematics in college and interned at BlackRock on their quant investing team back in the summer of 2008. And that really kicked off my career. I took an offer to join the firm full-time in 2009 after I graduated. It was a very interesting time to join a financial services firm during a financial crisis. But the great thing is that you really could only go up from there. So it was an incredible moment, to start my career. One of the amazing things about BlackRock at the time was that it was one of those financial services firms that felt more like a startup than a storied financial institution. It was founded by 8 founders in 1988, and the founders were still running the firm when I joined, even to this day. And so it created this entrepreneurial environment, which really helped catapult my career. About a year and a half into my career in quant, I realized quant investing wasn't the job for me. I felt like I had more of a personality than that, honestly. No disrespect to quant investors, because so many of them who I know are like the most fun, amazing people, but the day-to-day just didn't feel like it matched. I wanted to be where the action was at the company that I was working for that was much larger than just a quant investing shop. So I found my way through conversations and networking into becoming the first employee on BlackRock's corporate investor relations team. And a corporate IR team is really responsible for writing a company's narrative, creating a company's value framework, shareholder value framework, and preparing senior leadership like the CEO and CFO and board of directors to tell that story, to speak those numbers into narrative, to deliver that strategy to both external and internal communities. So shareholders, prospective shareholders, and employees. I, as employee number one in that function, helped build, grow, evolve that function. Eventually, in my early 30s, became the global head of investor relations for BlackRock. And during that time too, when I say it's cool that it was so entrepreneurial, I also saw that the firm needed more governance processes, corporate infrastructure. And instead of asking permission to go do it, I just started building the company's corporate sustainability function and eventually got the approval from the CEO to launch that as a formal function for the firm. So I spent 11 years of my career in IR and sustainability at BlackRock before making one last step there as the head of Aladdin Climate. So BlackRock has a technology business called Aladdin within the asset management business. It's over $1 billion revenue generating business. And I was leading a team responsible for integrating climate analytics into this investment and risk management platform. So that takes me to 13 years at BlackRock. What else was happening in my life during this time? When you're somewhere for 13 years, at least, and I'm not sure everyone feels this way, but I started to associate my worth and my identity with just this one company, and also work as the most important component of my life. And I poured all of my energy into it, and it served me well, and I loved doing that. But I would say the seeds had started to plant themselves maybe 3 years before I left, and then I had a catalyst. And I feel like we get blessed with catalysts, and we may not always see them as such when they hit us. And that goes to your reframing point, Nicole. It's like, how do you view and frame certain things that happen to you that cause you to make decisions and changes in your life? And that catalyst for me was early stage breast cancer in my early to mid 30s. And it was January of 2021 when I found out about it. And it totally shocked me because you never think that it's going to be you. And you kind of, especially when you're crushing it in life and in your career, you feel invincible in a way. And I definitely felt that way until this, which was the big realization moment for me and started those wheels turning even more powerfully that told me there's more that I want to accomplish in my life outside of my job, outside of this one company. And I haven't been able to accomplish both at the same time, or I haven't been able to sort of prioritize both at the same time. So I think I need to jump off this high-speed train and make a change for myself.
So, wow, that is so powerful. So Sam, really amazed by how you went from what is missing to what is possible. And it's an art more than a science. So how did you reframe that? A lot of people get stuck in this, from going from what is missing to what is possible, because people have self-doubt, I'm not qualified to do this, or I don't have the necessary skills. So let me just over pivot towards the skills that I don't have versus my strengths. And you have very unique strengths when you've been the first person to do a lot of things, and you have over a period of 13 years at BlackRock, you've curated and cultivated a lot of strengths. So question is, how did you make that reframe, that transition based on the set of environment and other factors?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm going through a few different reframes. So the first one was, who am I without a job? Like, I quit one day. I resigned in about April of 2022, so almost 3 years ago now, with no plan and not a ton of support, because leaving your big career on your own accord, most people are like, why would you ever do that? I mean, your peers at work don't understand it. The people that you admire and look up to at work who have had incredibly successful careers, in most cases, they haven't done it themselves. So it's not something that they advise you to do or are like super supportive of. Your family, who's so proud of you, even though they're so proud of you, they also think you're nuts. And that, like, how will she ever come back from this? Like, she's giving up so much. And that was the first thing. The reframe was, number one, you have to trust your gut to do what's right for you in your life at the time that it's right for you. And the other thing was, yes, I wouldn't have a big title anymore or a huge 70+ person team or a large paycheck or bonus that came on a bi-weekly basis or at the end of the year. Even some things like you pull yourself out of this community that you belong to. You're in any city in the world and you have a badge and you can access office space and all of those things. These are the things that I didn't really realize before I made my decision that I would then be kind of missing out on. But I also knew that there was so much that I wanted to gain. I wanted to find a life partner. I wanted to have a family one day. I knew that the clock was ticking in that area as well. I wanted to travel around the world, not for work, but where I actually had time to explore different cultures and see new places and go on adventures. Just not thinking about what I was giving up, but thinking about the abundance of what I was going to be able to go do and get for myself was that first reframe, I would say. So I took 6 months totally off. I had no plan. I did not think about work for 1 second during that time, which I realized I was in a privileged position to be able to take that time and to do that. But once I lived this identity of like free spirit traveler, no strings attached, I sort of knew who I was as a very loyal employee and leader and professional. And then I knew who I was as a no job, no strings attached. But the process and the journey that I've been on for the last couple of years, honestly, has been, how do I find that in between? Because both sides were extremes for me. And I'm in this new sort of career transition phase where I'm in the process of integrating both of those things. I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish from a personal perspective. I found my partner. And, you know, we talked a bit about reframing, and Nicole mentioned this earlier, but yes, I did not have a full-time leadership role at a company during these last almost 3 years. But what did I do? I met my husband. I got engaged. I got married. I traveled around the world. I met incredible people. I started a consulting and advisory business, and I've worked with some incredible CEOs and firms and teams over the last few years on a consulting basis. I learned how to speak French because my husband is French, and I met him in Paris. There's so many things that I have done, and really looking at those things as additive to my value and self and life and experience, instead of being scared to say, like, Oh, yeah, I haven't worked in a corporate environment for the last 3 years. That's something that I've definitely gotten more comfortable with the longer that I've lived in it, but it's not easy. I don't think it's ever finished, too. I think it's a constantly evolving process.
Can I ask a quick question, Arun? I want to go back to something you said a little bit ago, which was the people in your life who basically thought you were crazy. And my guess is that in your quieter moments, you thought to yourself, maybe I am.
Yeah.
Who were the people that, was there anybody like a mentor or a friend or someone that like kind of surprised you that said, I think you're doing the right thing for you? Was there anybody or any group of humans that like was positive and felt like this was the right decision for you?
That's a great question. First, there were absolutely times where I did look back and say, did I do the right thing? Especially as I found it difficult to figure out, like, what is my next big thing that I'm going to do? Self-doubt is real and it shows up sometimes when you least expect it. But I definitely have had a hugely supportive friend group. And my family came around too, honestly, once they saw how different I was from the person that I was when I was working 14 to 15 hours a day, to a person who was just like fully embracing life. My friends and family were then very supportive. I got to spend a lot more time with them than ever before. And so, yeah, I really do appreciate the support that did come and the people who sort of trusted and believed in me and who I know my happiness is important too.
I want to ask you a question. Nicole talked about this bright neon chairs, orange chairs in the city of Toronto. That was her moment where she had to navigate different emotions. And what I learned from Nicole and also talking to our friends at the Phoenix Club is there is that moment and then one goes through the moment, whatever that one is going through. And then there's this mindset one adopts. Should I adopt a mindset of scarcity or a mindset of abundance? And all the things that you shared kind of creates that mindset of abundance. So could you just take us through your journey from the moment, maybe you have neon chairs, and Taylor Swift concerts and all sorts of amazing things that Nicole's done, when she went through the moment. And then the mindset that you adopted, what has been your journey and how you've navigated through different ups and downs?
Yeah. So the exact moment that I decided to resign from my role, there was no neon chair necessarily. I think, and women especially do this, we prepare mentally a lot to do something before we actually do it. And we run through things in our heads over and over again, or just like internally or in our internal monologues. And I reached a point one day where I knew I couldn't go on anymore. It wouldn't have been fair to myself and my health and my future self and family to keep going. So that of my moment, I came to it, and it was very abrupt once I came to that moment. But I think for me, the whole process after that has been a lot more gradual. So like I said, I traveled for 6 months. I met my husband the last day of my travels. And another thing happened in my life and career. I came back to the United States and I was offered a really wonderful and what I would call stretch position at a startup that's led by someone that I really, really respect. And he offered me this position, and I thought about it over the weekend, and I called him back on a Monday. And I said, I'm so flattered that you'd want me on your team in this sweet role to run this company with you. But I just met the person really recently that I think is going to be my life partner. And I have to choose this prioritizing this relationship at this moment in time. And that was another one of those moments for me where I was choosing myself again. And this was an uncomfortable position for me to be in, because I was like, you all talked about the types of employees that you were on the last episode. Like, I was that employee who lived and breathed the company that I worked for, incredibly loyal, would put the company before myself or my needs many times in my life. And this was sort of the second time I chose me. I chose my life. And I questioned myself in that moment. And after that too, especially as today, I would love if someone offered me that same position or a role just like that. And in some ways you're kicking yourself. You're like, why did I choose no again? But again, I reframed, and the things I've gotten out of that, I got to move to Paris. Like I said, I got to learn to speak French. I got to build a relationship with the person that I think is the absolute perfect partner for me in life. And those things matter too. Investing in other areas that will ultimately provide the support structure and the foundation in your life to allow you to do what you want to do later on. I think we undervalue those things sometimes. So that was sort of the second point. Go ahead, Nicole.
I'm just so like moved by this. I mean, look, I'm looking at like our icon in the back, and it's like, who moved my career? And we spend so much time thinking about it like a binary decision. It's a work-life balance, right? This podcast is obviously dedicated to your career, but I don't think we ever want to we don't want to cross a threshold of your career at a loss for everything else. Without the benefit of time and space and perspective, you can get like that. I mean, all three of us have worked in organizations where we look and we see marriages in tatters. We see kids that aren't speaking to their parents. We see poor behavior in Las Vegas. It's like, we've seen that. And I don't think that's where we want to be, but I think it's really a slippery slope. And it's tough to pull the ripcord and say, like, I'm probably crossing some thresholds that I want to set for myself in the pursuit of the job, the title, the glory, the paycheck, whatever. I'm just so cognizant of the fact that, like, it's about the career, but a career is but a piece of the patchwork of your life.
I couldn't agree more. Their careers are long, lives are long. You know, longevity is only increasing. And so we're going to be working longer in our lives also, and investing in ourselves. I called it like investing in the sustainability of my life and career, how I really view it. I honestly believe that work is going to change. Obviously, there are so many things that we can get into about like how work and work life will change over time based on AI, but also other dynamics. And I'm a believer that we'll go kind of work in these sprints that are multi-year sprints, and then take some time to reflect, to think about what we learned, what we want to do next, where we can have the greatest impact and add the most value. And it's really that nonlinear career path, I guess, that I'm talking about. And I'm going to own that that's the way that I will live my life and career, and not think about it as something that's happening to me because I can't find the perfect role right now, you know? And I've not, it was sort of like it took a long time to find the right partner. And now it's taking a while to find the next right full-time role. So I'm looking to transition out of advisory work, which I've been doing for the last few years, now back into a full-time role, a leadership position at a company. And in this, I'm and this is part of my membership in the Phoenix Club, but I'm really trying to figure out what is it that's next for me. But I also know, and you can get anxiety on a near daily basis with all of the uncertainty that you face, especially in the job market that we're facing right now for white collar jobs. They call it the white collar recession. But I think another reframe is taking back the reins and saying, I'm going to own what this career journey looks like for me. I'm going to own that it might take me some time, and what does time matter really? Am I worried about what it says on my resume, like the last time I held a full-time position? Well, you know what? I think that's an antiquated way of companies looking at people and their experiences, to just say like, oh, this person hasn't been in an operating role since 2022. That's not that long ago. And also, here are all these things that I've done in between that were incredibly impactful. So I'm really trying, and it's a process, and it's a daily process. And some days I'm like on the top of the mountain and I feel so strong and so in control of it. And other days I'm at the bottom and I feel like none of it's in my control and the uncertainty is very overwhelming. But I think my long-term journey is going to be to not give in to some of these inherent like fears that are instilled in me because of the way the system has worked. Like, it's easier to get a job while you still have a job. Everyone says that. So don't leave your job, because just find another job while you still have a job. I kind of broke that, and I'm going to find a job that I really love. And then I will talk about that story of like how you don't have to have a job to get a job. Other things, I think that it's really hard these days for people to be considered for roles that they haven't done the exact job description for. We get put in these boxes in our careers, like, oh, you're an IR person or you're a corporate sustainability person, and we don't have an IR role or a corporate sustainability role. And I'm like, but yes, I just listened to all of the things you're trying to accomplish as a team and as a company, and here are all the ways that I can add value. I think there's a lack sometimes, and it's not all companies' fault, because they're busy and they're under pressure from lots of different stakeholders, and they're human beings at the end of the day going through some of the same things that we're going through. But sometimes I think there's a lack of creativity in organizational design and hiring processes that rules people out who could be so value add. And I want to sort of break through that that obstacle, that antiquated notion, that challenge that I think many of us are facing today in our job search.
Yeah, Sam, I think you brought an incredibly important point, because the workplace today, especially in this white collar recession that we are in, boxes one in. Let's say you're an IR, or you're an architect, or you're a digital strategist, or innovation consultant, or you're whatever, CIO. All of these are boxed in roles. One can do much beyond that. And I think what we learned from this conversation is how your journey, your past 3 years, you've done some incredible things, whether that is consulting, whether that is, finding true love in life, and how that is in harmony with what you've done, from a additional skills that you added to your portfolio. And I think personally, this has been an incredible session for me. I mean, as a host, as a co-host, it's just such a learning moment. So we just want to thank you for that wisdom. And I want to plant a question on this. This is kind of a leading discussion into this practical advices and takeaways that we all can learn from you. So what are like your top 3 wisdoms that you can share with us as well as our audience that you have learned over a period of past 3 years, and this reframe moment that you have been living through? Floor is all yours.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this has definitely come through in our conversation so far, but it's so important to do your best to focus on what you have accomplished instead of what you have not accomplished, or what you don't have. Looking at it that way can help motivate us and keep us motivated, because the job search process can be draining and can burn you out and get you down. So I would say making sure that you really do spend time recognizing what have you done and writing it down, talking about it to other people, That I think another thing is finding a community. And that's for two reasons. One reason is that our communities and our networks are where we're going to find our next role. We all have come to the realization after applying on LinkedIn to many, many jobs and getting the immediate, Arun, I know from the last episode, like how quickly you received the sorry, you're not the right candidate emails. We've all received them. And it just brings us to this realization that like, you're not going to get it through applying on the website or applying through LinkedIn, but you're going to get a role through either people you already know or the people in the networks of people you already know. So community is so important when you're searching. And I think that earlier on in my search, I was almost afraid to activate my network and community.
Mm-hmm.
I felt ashamed, or like I didn't want to happen to them yet. Only if I really need them will I go that route. But jump into that immediately, because it is what will define your path. But the other reason to lean into community is, number one, there are so many amazing, interesting, just like wonderful, beautiful people out there, like the two of you and the rest of the Phoenix Club, who are going through something very, very similar at the same time. And there, to me, in life is nothing more powerful than the bonds that you can form with people during periods like that. You can learn from them. You can share with them. And you really learn about the goodness in humanity. Like, I've never met a group of people who's more willing to help other people. And that just makes me feel good and happy. So sometimes I'm like, it's fine that I don't have a job, because there's great people in the world and I'm connected to them and friends with them and building better relationships. And who knows what that will lead to. But lean into community for those two reasons. And lastly, so the third thing is practice telling your story. Storytelling is the way that we communicate with one another. It's the way that we understand each other and relate to other people. And I think that it's so important when you're searching for a job and when you're building your network to really be able to share your story in a succinct way that resonates with people, because someone will hear that story and then take that story and tell it to someone in their network who will say, that's a great story. I want to meet that person. Storytelling is just such a powerful tool that we have. And if we can't communicate about ourselves and what we've accomplished and what we want to do, how do we ever expect to like get connected to the thing that's right for us, or the team that's the right team that we're supposed to be on? So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, the third one, you talk about it all the time to all of us. What is your narrative? Have you practiced your narrative? And have you shared it with, how many people you have shared it with? Is it just you and yourself in your head and LinkedIn, aka digital sewer, or is it with a lot of people in the planet? How many people you have shared your narrative with?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a big challenge that I took away from my conversations with you. I wanted to have a target. Let's say I want to share my narrative with 30 people in next 30 days or 60 days. It could be 100 days, but you're getting yourself out there. I think personally, this has been a major, takeaways, for me personally, working with you and, the friends at the Phoenix Club. So this is incredible. So I want to pass the mic back on to Nicole, the brain and the marketing genius behind this whole thing. Nicole, over to you.
I'm adding that to my next narrative. Arun says I am a marketing genius, so thank you for that. Sam, we didn't ask perhaps the most important question, which is, how's your health?
Great. Thank you for asking. I really appreciate that. I'm doing well and I feel better than ever. And I think part of that is that I've given myself the time to really heal, like physically, mentally, emotionally, and come back stronger than ever. So thank you for asking.
Well, we are glad that you are healthy, and we are glad that you are in Phoenix Club. And I am glad to know you and consider you a friend. Sam is one of the best door openers you could ever hope to meet in your whole life. And we kind of met through happenstance. And I will be forever grateful to the person that introduced us. So I'm really thankful. And I know Arun is as well, that you joined us today. This has been many months in the making. And I'm so grateful for your story. And I encourage our listeners to go through the reframe process, especially when you're having what Arun would say is a gray zone day, or what I would say is a 0 on the 1 to 10 scale. Going through that reframe process and thinking about all the things that you have. It's written in every self-help book, but practicing it and hearing that other people are not ashamed to talk about it, I think is so important. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being part of my personal reframe. And hopefully this is helpful for others as well. To our audience, thank you as usual for coming and listening. Hope you found this as enjoyable as we did. The thing I'm going to leave you with is something that Sam said, which is I chose me. And so I hope that whatever it is you do after you hit end on this podcast, you choose you. So thanks. Look forward to seeing you all next time.
Thank you.